Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So my presentation today is the history of technology and education. Sorry. Technology began in the classrooms in 1564 with the first pencil. The pencil was long, dated before the 1900s, but it was not into mass production until the 1900s. Not only that, when it came to the pencil, I found out that you had to be privileged in order to have a pencil. The next one, part of education, was the horn book. The horn book was a wooden paddle with lessons printed on it, and usually kids were given it, passed around the classroom for them to copy what was written on them, and that was about 16 in the 1600, 1650. Next, 1654 was the slide rule. This is something that was mainly used for scientists and engineers, and they used it to do math. Eventually, it came into the classrooms, and it was 1674. In the 1870s, the magic lantern. This is the first attempt for a projector in the classroom. The magic lantern projected images printed on glass plates onto walls. And by the end of World War I, Chicago's public schools had about 8,000 lantern slides. The typewriter is the next technology that was introduced, which is in 1873. Mr. Charles Scholes first introduced the typewriter. His version only had capital letters only, but by the end of the 1800s, other models were duplicated and they had uppercase and lowercase. Next, we have the chalkboard. It was in 1890. The invention of the blackboard had an enormous impact on classroom and its efficiency. It was a simple blackboard. It was a cousin to what we know now, the whiteboard. But it was made teaching more easy because they were able to write on the blackboard instead of using the horn book. In 1905, the stereoscope, it was kind of like the modern day, we had what we have now is a 3D projector. It's a 3D viewing tool, and it was made popular for entertainment, but teachers used it to illustrate their points while they were doing their lectures. In 1935 to the 1940s, the film and the overhead projectors were introduced, and this aided teachers with the opportunity to bring their books to life by making them visuals for their classes. In the 1940s, the mimeograph, which actually was the first copy machine, and allowed teachers and school staff to print copies of class materials. Also, the ditto machines. All you had to do was just crank the ink wheel and fill the drum. And then in 1950, 1951, headphones and videotapes were used. It was used to reinforce materials they used in classrooms. And in 1959, the beginning of the photocopiers that we know now was produced. It gave teachers and admins a chance to make copies of material. Almost at once, the new technology it replaced the mimeograph and other things that were like it. And in 1970, the handheld calculators were about. Many teachers worried that using a calculator would undermine the math skills and that only delayed the initial rollout. But very quickly, the handheld calculators became widely popular, and it's credited to the spreadsheets that we used. There was Excel and Google Sheets. Scantrons. The Scantrons was pretty much what I used when I was younger growing up when we took tests. And this was thanks to Michael Skolitsky. It allowed teachers to grade multiple choice tests in a more efficient way. And all they had to do was just put the answers and feed it into the machine. And then in 1977, the Apple II came out. It didn't have internet access, but it still allowed students to learn geography and solve math problems using computer games on floppy disk. Then in 1980 through 1985, the personal computer and the CD-ROM drives became popular. And the CD-ROM is what we have already in our computers now, but back then it was one that was portable. It was detachable, and then they actually put one inside. And those are the discs that were used with the personal computers in order for us to save your work, save books, whatever it was used on that. Then in 1990, the World Wide Web came about. And it was invented in 1990, but it wasn't released until 1991. And the internet wasn't available to the general public until 1993. Now in 1909, the interactive whiteboard came about. It was a handy digital tool, so much that many school systems are rolling them out. They use a touch. They use a touch sensitive and projectors and computers. We have them in our classrooms now. Then in 2007, the e-reader is an ebook. It brings flexibility to the classroom. For one, you don't need an internet connection. Also, they have features that enhance learning experience, annotation, tools, bookmarks, hyperlinks, dictionary, and search features. Then in 2018, the AR powered ebook, an augmented reality platform that turns paper books into an interactive ebook, which are like the iPads that kids use and Kindles that we use today. An enhanced version of reality that readers can see, hear, and take part in content, and is very engaging and interactive. Lastly, we have the 2020 Ed apps. Mobile apps are making headway both to teach concepts and reinforce them through tutoring. They also address key issues that learners and teachers face. As you can see, I put different types that had different types of apps that are used in the classroom today. Facebook is used. You have Sketch, you have WordPress, Sunny, you have all types of apps that are used these days. And here's my quiz for this, and here are my references, and that's the end of it.
Thank you so much. Does anybody